Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on understanding using methods, classes, and objects. So we'll just get started and call it methods and classes. So let's go over here, hit new, class. We'll just call it methods. Choose public static. Let's start off with these guys here. All right, so we'll start off with methods for the first thing. So we already know that we have just our information here, just basic information. So method bodies, for example, if we did system.out.println and we said our first Java application, okay? When we just ended it, this is kind of like a method body. But what we would need to do is we need to call something. So in a method body, you're actually calling something. Right here, we're not calling anything at all. Not calling anything. So let's say that, for example, let's say we had display information, okay? And we had this like right here. Now it gives you a red X because it says create method display information. This right here is a method name. So a method name could be named anything that you want it to. But it's very important that you name it something important, something that makes sense. So we're going to create a method, okay? Create method. Now, in order to create a method, what we want to do is, you notice how we have the beginning block. This is the beginning part of your code, and this is the ending part of your code. You have to create your method outside of that, okay? So we'll call it public static void. We'll call it display information. And what we'll do is, you notice how we put open and close brackets? You could put parameters in here to pass information, but for right now, we're not going to do that. We're going to hit return, open our code, that's the beginning, and end. So right now, as you see, display information would actually come down here and do something. So now we need this to do something. Okay? So what can we do? A couple things. So let's just kind of start off with the basics. Let's say that we want to say system.out.println, and we could just say our display method works. Simple. And up here, we could say calling, you know what, actually, let's take this out altogether. Because, well, you know what, let's say we successfully called the method. Let's just do that. All right. So now if we run this right here, look at that. It displays our display method works, and below it, it says we called the method first. Now, the first question is, why did our display method works display first before this? Well, because this was called first. So it came down here and said, hey, what do you want me to do? And it came here and say, hey, I want you to print this, so I printed that. Next thing is, the next part is part two. Step two is like, oh, okay, now you need to print, we successfully called the method. So we called the method and that worked. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to run it again. And look at that, our display works fine. Now we can put other things down here. We don't just have to put that. We could put return. We'll put a few things. Again. And we can put again and again. Now if we run it, it prints it 3 times. So now let's not run it. Okay? What happens? It doesn't work because we're not calling the method. Now here's another thing. Let's say that we want to pass a parameter, we want to pass a value of nothing, okay? It's going to say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about because we're not accepting a parameter down here. So what we can do here is we could do a couple things. We talked about strings and ints and stuff like that. So let's for the heck of it, let's create a string and we're going to pass something. So let's say string, we'll call it street name, okay? And we'll declare it and equal something. So we'll say we're calling it string name, and we're going to say equals World Series drive. Okay, so we're saying it equals World Series drive. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to pass in street name. Okay, now what we need to do down here is we need to accept that variable. We need to create a parameter, and it has to be a string. So we could call it anything. We'll say it name. Okay, so now what we're saying here is we're saying, hey, you know what? Right here, accepting the parameter, and it has to be the same value. So same data type. We have string. Now what we can't do is we could do int name, no problem, but it's going to work. It's not going to work right away. It's going to say, hey, the type methods are not applicable. Now you can convert them, but we're not going to get a conversion right now. So right now we're just going to do string name. Now if we run this, what's going to happen? Nothing. It's going to call, it's going to pass it, but we're not displaying that information. So let's say that we want to display that information. We could do system out.println, and we could say our street name is, you know, like we did in the other video, we could do plus, and then we put that variable name. Oops. Oh, I can't type. Name. And then we close in the variable. All right, so we're saying that, as you see, we're displaying it, saying our street name is space plus, and we're taking the name of the parameter, not this name, and displaying it. Now it should display properly. Look at that. Our street name is World Series Drive. And maybe we need to put a period in there, or just make a drive. Now if we run it again, it does the same thing. So this is how you display stuff. Now, can you have multiple methods? Let's see. Second method. We say, let's call this public static void, and we'll call this vehicle types. Okay, and we'll put a string in there, and we'll put a couple variables. We'll put make, we'll put model, and we'll put year, but we'll make it a int year. Okay. Why is it not like that? Int year. Okay. Now we're gonna. All right. So now we're gonna say system.out.println our make of the vehicle. Well, you know, let's just put this. Make, and we'll do plus make. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste this real quick. All right, now we're going to put model. And as you see here, we're going to change that model to model because that's the variable. Now, you don't have to have these in order, but I'm just putting them in order. Year, and we'll put year. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call that method. The name of the method is what? Vehicle type. We're going to pass, and we could do string values or we could do stuff up here. So let's do stuff up here and get used to doing this. We'll say string make, and we'll put Dodge. The model is equals Dakota. Close it, and the year is 97. All right. Now we have vehicle data types here. Now we need to put those guys in here. Now here's the thing. You have to make sure that you put the variables exactly how you're receiving them in a parameter. So we need to make sure they're make, model, year, because if we don't, then it's not going to work. You're going to get wrong information. Things are going to blow up. And year. Let's close that. All right. Why did it not Did I spell it wrong? I bet I did. I did. I spelled it moke. Alright, so now when I call this, it should do the street sign, and we're going to actually comment that out and not do that. So we're going to comment that out, and what's going to happen is, as you see here, it says, hey, you gave me a variable type, you declared it, but you're not doing anything with it. So we're going to call the vehicle type. So let's run this real quick. Look at this, make, model, and year. Boom. Provides that information very beautifully. So we're going to save this and keep this as our methods. Let me just click X out of here. So that's our methods. Let's see. All right, so we're going to do something different with our so we're going to do another. Let's actually let's go back to methods and add another method for something else. So let's do a calculation method. So let's do public static void vehicle price. And what we want to do is here use the word double, and we'll put sell price. Okay, so how much are we selling it for? All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say double, and we're going to say sell price. Price. Vehicle cost. Okay, we're going to use a final. We're going to say double. We're going to say vehicle cost. Actually, we're going to say tax rate equals, we'll say 6.50%. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to say, hey, vehicle cost equals, we need to take the sell price, that sell price, and times it by the tax rate. And then we could do system.out.println current cost and we could do okay, so we could do the sell price. We're saying, hey, the current cost is, let's do current cost is the sales price plus after taxes is, and then we could do vehicle cost. And I'll tell you how I came up with this. Let's do that. All right. So what I did here is I used the word double, which is the parameter coming in. We call it vehicle cost. Now what we did is we did a final double, and that's we're not going to change it anymore. That variable type double, and we said tax rate equals 6.50. Okay. Then we took vehicle cost, which is we declared it up here. Declared it, but not using it yet. Okay. And then here, declared an initial variable. So we declare it and now perform the calculation. So we know that that's going to be a double, that vehicle cost. We're taking the sell price, which is whatever that is being passed in, we're times it by 6.50, and then we're saying system print that this current cost is the sell price that came in, after taxes is vehicle cost, and that's the total price of it. So now what we could do is we could call this guy here. So we could say vehicle, what do I call it? Vehicle price. We could pass in a value. We'll say 5,050.99. Okay. All right. So let's run this guy here. Let's see if it works. All right, current cost is $5,050.99, which we have already declared up here. After taxes is $32,831.43. So that sounds a bit insane, but all it's doing is multiplying that number. So I mean, it's probably a bad idea, I guess, if I did 6.5, but it's fine for what we're doing. Now if I did 0.65, then it probably would be a different price. Let's see. Yeah, that's more like it. But anyways, you get the gist. You could perform a calculation there. All right, let's end that. Save it. All right, so now we're going to talk about classes. So let's hit new class. We'll call it employee class. Now we won't collect public static this time. So we call it the public class, and we're going to create a private here. We're going to call int employee number and close it. Okay. So employee class one field. So we could talk about extend it, which is used in the basis of other class, data fields, instant variables, private access, etc. These are things that we would talk about in our lecture. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to create a get and a set. We'll talk about why we're going to do a get and a set. So let's hit return. We're going to do public int get employee number. We're going to do return employee num. Okay. Comment this there. So get objects. So now we have a get and set. So here's the thing: when you're dealing with getting objects and returning them, you have to have two things. You have to have a get object and a set object. What's the set do? It sets a variable. What's the get do? It gets it and returns it. Pretty simple stuff. So we'll say public void. We'll call it set employee number. Thing is, you can name it anything, but it's very important to name it something that means something, so you have an idea when going back a month or 3 months later. You're like, what did I call it that for, and what's that mean? So now in this case, we're going to say imp num equals emp. Okay. Imp num is, we'll say the global variable. Global variable is a variable that you use, doesn't matter. It's a variable that is used outside of here. So if I put a variable, let's say I did something here and I called it int testing. Okay. Now, could I go down here and say int new equals testing? Look, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. But if I copy this here and put it up here and said private int testing, it will allow me to do that, but we're not doing that. Just want to kind of give you an example. All right, so now we have our return and our get. So we have our set employee number up here equals emp, whatever is passed in. That's setting it. And down here, when we call the get, we're saying, hey, return the employee number. So whatever that number is, it's going to return that value. Hopefully that makes sense. So we need to add some other information here. We have to add private string. We'll call it imp employee last name. We'll do private string employee first name. We'll do private double employee salary. All right, so now we have salaries, we have the get and set. Now what else do we need to do? We need to get some other stuff here. We need to get employee last name. Public string get employee last name. Oops. And return employee last name. Oh boy. Did I give you the wrong one? All right, there we go. Has some match up there. All right, now we have to public void set p. We pass in a variable name called string name. We do employee last name equals name. All right, now what do we need to do? We need to do the same thing for first name. So we're going to kind of copy and paste this, change it. It doesn't like that. I have to type it out. That's no problem. Big, I am doing a demo. Sorry, my cat just wanted a pet. All right, employee first name. I want to brain freezer. Employee first name. All right, so public string. All right. Set employee first name. So as you see, it's just the same thing over and over. We say set employee, I'll just put EMP first name, make it consistent. We need to pass in a variable. Yeah. We need to say B first name equals name. All right, so what is our problem here? All right, so we got the set employee first and last name. We got last name, first name, employee number. So those are three things that we have. Let's see here. Employee salary. Set salary. Did we put salary? Okay, we did put salary in there. Wasn't sure. As you notice here, how we do return. Return means it's going to return a value. Set salary. Public void. When you do a set, you have to do a void, public void, set employee salary. Now this is all in the book too. You could refer to page 42 on, and you'll be able to see the same thing that we're going through. So employee salary equals sal. All right, so we have that. All right, so now that we have our class built, this class is going to get and set objects. But we need to have another class that is like the simulator that calls it. So we'll do new class, and we'll say declare to employees. Okay, and we'll do public static here. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to have our software employee, which is the name of our class. Say clerk equals new employee. And I'll tell you why I'm doing that in 1 second here. All right, and we need one more employee. Let's say employee. We have a clerk, we have a driver. Let's say we need a manager. Employee. All right, so employee is the name of that class over here. So we're able to call that class. So when you're doing something like this, you're always going to say, the name of the class plus whatever you want to call it. Always make it meaningful, okay? And then you're going to say, give me a new class. What's that basically doing? It's basically cloning, it's basically taking that new name, your desired name, to have access to the employee class. So what does that really mean? All right, so let's say that you have access to the library in CCHC. You have access to all the books that are there in the library. You could go and do say you're doing research on a history project, or you're doing research on science or biology. Great. You have all those books to research. Well, that is kind of how this class works. We have this clerk, and we're going to be able to use any of the classes that we have built over here. We're going to be able to set an employee number. We could set his or her first or last name. It gives us all those abilities to do stuff like that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say clerk dot. Now you see how I did dot? Look at the classes that we built. Get employee, last name, first name, set. Those are all things that we built. Now it's in that class. We're able to utilize all that stuff we built. So we'll do clerks set employee number like we did, and we set an integer. We'll say 345. Okay. Now we need to give the driver employee number. Okay. And we'll say it's 99. We'll say 000. Okay. And then we need to give the manager one. So we do set employee number. What we're using right now is Constructors. So we'll say it's 989. Okay, so now what we do is we set that. Now, let's go a little bit further ahead. Let's say clerk dot set first name. Okay, and we give it a first name. We'll say Mike Tomlin. Okay, we'll say first name is Mike. We'll say clerk dot set employee last name equals Tomlin. And most of you from Pittsburgh probably know who Mike Tomlin is. All right, so we'll do that, and then what we'll do is we'll display the information. How do we do that? We do system.out.println the clerk's employee number is clerk dot get employee number. Okay, and we call it an open close bracket, and we say, and the driver number is plus driver dot get employee num. We'll talk about some of these other options here in 1 second. Oops. I think that's it. That was a handful. All right, so now if I run this, it should work. All right, so the clerk's employee number is 345 and the driver's number is 0. All right, let's change that to something else. Right now. All right, 874. Now, we're going to add another line here. Say the clerk's first and last name is, and then we'll do plus, we need to call a get. So it's clerk dot get first name plus clerk dot get last name, and then we need to do this, go space, then close it. And let's see what happens. I'll tell you how it works. All right, so the clerk's first and last name is Mike Tomlin. How did we get that? Perfect. So we used the clerk, and we set his class with first name and last name. Now down here is we did clerk.get employee first name, get last name. Why is that? Because over here on the get, we're getting that value that we just provided. We're getting that first name, we're getting that last name, we're providing that. Set is we set it and then we're getting it. That would be an example of a class, or declaring objects and using their methods. And it's kind of an introduction to constructors, because we're using constructors all throughout this. These guys are all constructors, how they're set up. We could have did this a different way, but the constructor is used to hold that information in that object. And then we're calling that object to get that information in essence. So like when we did this right here is we're calling method name employee, we're creating that. And our default, we have constructors because each constructor does something, excuse me, specifically. So that is everything on using methods, classes, and objects. So we'll go over this in class, and if you need a reference, here it is. You can watch it anytime and go back and talk about what we talked about in class and so forth. All right, thanks for listening, and have a good week.